Good morning. I'm here with Mr. Kaminsky, the English 2 teacher. We're going to reflect on how he's done so far with Unit 2 and how his kids have done so far with Unit 2. I'm gonna tilt this down a little bit.
Okay.
Sorry. So I'm looking at an angle. I'm at a worse angle.
There you go.
Okay. So far, you're in the middle of Unit 2, which is your poetry unit.
Mhm.
How do you think the lesson went specifically with TP-CAST?
I think a good 85 to 90% of all the students know what TP-CAST is, and they can do it on their own, but they might have a question or two as they progress down the letters.
Okay, are they struggling with a certain part?
Connotation,
Okay.
and then they're still having issues developing their own tone and their own theme.
Okay, so connotation, tone
Right.
are things that we need
And
to
theme.
work on. Connotation, tone, and theme.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so how do you plan on looking at, we'll take one at a time. How do you plan on
Sure.
helping with connotation?
Well, I mean, the it's not so much that they're having issues with connotation. It's just they forget that I'm asking for figurative language.
Mhm.
So once I say, hey, just give me figurative language, they're like, oh, okay. So you just want similes or metaphors. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But I get that question a lot though. What do you mean by connotation? I was like, go back to your TP-CAST paperwork, read what it says. Figurative language? Yeah, okay, cool. And that's about it. So I think it's just a reminder thing that they're just not putting the two together.
So they don't know that, like, they don't understand that there's emotions with words. They don't understand word choice.
No, they don't understand connotation on TP-CAST means give me figurative language.
Okay.
Like just that one-to-one. They're fine with, oh, okay, you mean diction or you mean metaphor or simile. I mean, once they figure out all the different figurative language they can use for connotation in TP-CAST, they're fine. Like if
Okay.
you called it TP-FAST, it would work better.
So they're not, tell them we can't recreate the whole thing for them.
Just saying.
So so to clarify, and you can
Uh-huh.
correct me if I'm wrong. So they understand diction,
Uh-huh.
understand word choice.
Yeah.
They understand emotions that go with words,
Uh-huh.
like happy, excited.
Right.
And they don't understand figurative language, so it's literary devices they're also
Right.
confused with.
Yes.
Okay. So could we have how? They understand how to pick it out in isolation. They just know how to pull it out of a poem, or what is it?
So they understand, like they know what a simile is. They know what a
Mhm.
metaphor is.
Mhm.
They could say, "Oh, it's a comparison with like or as." It's a comparison of two things that are different. That doesn't use like or as. That's how they know metaphor and simile. But when you're reading like a Lewis Carroll poem and there's a mouse that's being trial for jury,
Right.
they just can't. It doesn't register. That's personification.
Okay. Oh, so really they don't understand personification in its context. They can pick it out of a word.
Right. If you give them four
worksheet.
examples, these are metaphor, these are figurative language. Give me the one that's personification. They can do it.
Right.
But within a full work.
In its content, which is where you're finding it, they can't pull it out.
Right.
So if it was alone on a street corner, they could find it, but they can't find it if you gave them like
A group.
find it. Okay. So helping them find literary devices in
Text.
in context, what they need. Okay. So is there a station? How you going?
So we've done stations.
Okay.
We've done it to where I've had different poems. I've had two different poems that we were working on in the class unit
Okay.
period, whatever you want to call it, because we're on block. And then I would split TP-CAST, so I'd have multiple groups. So I'd split TP-CAST between the groups.
Okay.
And then they would co-teach each other. So like the group that didn't have some World War II poem would get some John Donne Holy Sonnet or something,
Okay.
and then they would then trade places so that way everybody could have an understanding of what the poem is, student top wise.
Right.
So I've done that. But still, and then naturally I wouldn't give the same group paraphrase and connotation because that's kind of like your meat of the work.
You don't want them to doubly mess
I
up.
don't want them, right. So, I would give them title, paraphrase, and maybe tone, where the other one would get like connotation, shift, and theme.
Okay.
You know, that way it's kind of split up nicely. And that worked for some classes. And then for some classes, those who, it was a little frustrating because they would put up something incorrect and I'd have to stop it because I didn't want the group who hadn't been exposed to that poem to walk away with an incorrect.
Confused
Right.
and messed up. So really, okay, what you're describing and kind of what you're describing is really a classroom jigsaw.
Mhm.
It's kind of when you give each a piece and then they come together as a
Mhm.
whole. And so, but then you have to make sure that each part of the jigsaw was right, because then they're teaching each other.
Right.
And you want to teach them the right way. So then, I guess to help with that, I don't know if you have, because your classes are 90 minutes, maybe we could set up a timer so you personally are going in each group for a minute or two just checking or having them write down the gist on a big sheet of paper and I'm just going to check that paper to make sure you guys get
Oh
it.
yeah, I mean, I'm constantly
Just like-
hovering over all of this, just trying to make sure. It's just when you've got
But,
larger classes that I have,
mhm.
you know, one or two things may slip through where then they get ready to tell me what it's about, and I'm like, hey, you can't say it's that. I don't know
Right.
where you got that because I don't want these other kids to get confused,
To
and
be
then they get
wrong.
frustrated.
Then half your class is wrong.
Right.
And so, because your biggest class, you have like 20 something.
22, 23?
22 kids, and so you're looking at 4 in a group, 5 in a group, or
4, I think,
One group.
is about right. So,
Okay.
because I had about 5, because, you know, I had an absent kid or whatever too, so 5 was typically, 4 was typically in the groups, and I did have one group that was like maybe 3 or something like that.
okay. And are they answering questions or just coming up with a product? in the group?
They are, what do you mean by answer? Like a
Like, are they-
worksheet or something?
yeah,
No,
they-
there's no worksheet. It is a poem, and it is TP casts,
Okay.
and they are writing on the actual paper their thoughts about whatever they're assigned, you know, paraphrase or title or
Okay.
whatever, right?
You're just trying to think of a quick way for you to check.
I mean, I have looked at the Common Lit worksheet stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and like, I think, I did give them some of the questions when we did Invictus a long,
Oh,
long
like a
time ago.
guided question,
Right.
just for one.
Just
One-
for
yeah.
Invictus to get their feet wet.
Right.
And they did okay with that, but that wasn't really handling some of the more difficult aspects of figurative language.
Denser and thicker.
Right.
Okay. Denser poem, but and something where they're gonna have to really, the figurative language doesn't jump out at you.
Right.
Sometimes extended metaphors that go on for lines, it confuses kids
Mhm.
a lot, so it's helping them.
Yeah,
pull out
and I
that.
did give them extra credit for like Emily Dickinson, like Funeral in My Brain, because it's like that is a very difficult poem for them. So I gave them, you know, an
Anything
extra,
abstract,
and
yeah.
I wanted to give them something abstract to see what they could do. Very few students got everything,
Right.
but you know, I did give them extra credit for what they could attempt and what was
Oh.
marginally within the realm of, hey,
Right.
yeah, that's kind of what she's talking about.
So maybe, I mean, I don't want to simplify and make like a scavenger hunt. Maybe a rubric that told them you need to pull out a minimum. Okay, I know there are 5 examples of literary devices in here. I need you to find 3.
Yeah. So I did go through a quick rubric where it was basically like theme and tone were like my 2 big ones. So those were like 15 pointers. Paraphrase was like another 15 points because that's like a lot of the meat of
Right.
it. Connotation was another 50 points. And then, you know, you did your title, you're talking 5, shift was another 5. And then basically connotation, I gave you the rest of whatever's left. But if you missed any of the connotations, you know, I might knock you a little here and a little there, a little there to make up that difference.
So they were aware going into it.
Yes.
Okay, what to look for. Okay, what do you think from this experience and what you're working on or what you've done so far in poetry is going to help shape your thinking as you go further in planning a unit, planning a lesson?
Mainly, I think it's just knowing the amount of exposure the kids have coming into this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe set some of my expectations a little more within the
Right.
realm of what can be achieved.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, poetry is easy,
Right.
and I think it should be easy to most people. But I think I assume too much of their
That they have things
that
in
they
their
have
background
had.
knowledge
Right.
they don't have. And so just being mindful of their
Right.
background so that you can scaffold and
Mhm.
adjust the lesson as you go further. So you bring them up. You don't bring yourself down.
Right,
You're
right,
constantly bringing them up to
Right.
where you want them to be. Okay. So how might you kind of answer this? How might you apply the learning, like you said, just being mindful of what they do and do not know?
Yeah.
And to maybe even before you start something, ask them how much experience do you have with, do you know Emily Dickinson? Have you heard this word before?
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just find out what they've had in their experience, because
Yeah, and you know, every day I keep getting more and more surprised of,
what they don't know.
right, like French Revolution?
What's that?
Yeah.
The French, who are they?
Yeah.
Salad dressing. Okay, and so as you reflect on the conversation that we're having,
Mm-hmm.
how does this help your own thinking, or how does this, as you reflect on the conversation, how has it supported your learning, or how does it transform your own thought process?
So, I mean, like I said, I mean, of course, keeping in mind their level of ability naturally, but like going forward, because it's only going to get more stuff coming.
Yeah, it's just building.
I mean, it's just building,
They're
right?
building on it,
So there's
yeah.
only more and more stuff. So figurative language is in everything.
Everything.
So
Yeah.
this, to me, has just made me feel more apt to throw in a poem every once in a while, just to keep them thinking of that abstract language,
Good.
rather
yeah.
than just, okay, this is a drama unit, we're gonna do drama for 20 days straight or whatever it is.
Right.
But instead, we might do a poem as a homework or something.
Right.
Hey, keep this guys in mind, because it's gonna come back again,
Yeah,
whether
in
you want it
every
to
way.
or not.
Right.
And all this stuff is also in drama, all this stuff is in persuasive, I mean,
Right.
it's everywhere. So just the fact that I'm gonna keep hammering them with poems for the rest of the year, not only because I like poetry,
Right.
but because I think it's the best way to get that abstract knowledge database together, is to be exposed to things that A, you're not comfortable reading anyway,
Right.
because they're not,
Right.
but B, it's something where you have to actually think to even you have to put effort into it to understand what's actually been told to you. It's
Right.
not just there on the page,
Right.
like it is with the informational text or
It's
something.
not concrete. You have to dig through and define it.
And you have to
So,
infer, which is another big thing that they're
yes.
struggling with.
That's something we didn't talk about when we talked about it first. This inferencing, letting them know that they're inferencing now, that they need to infer.
Mhm.
Think about your thinking stems, what's happening in your brain. Like, for them to be mindful of that, I think
Right.
is huge. So, yeah, poetry is definitely something that can be used throughout. It's definitely something that's going to be assessed with on STAR. So, to not let it,
Go by the wayside.
don't let it die.
Right.
Let
Oh,
it
don't worry
live.
about that. I have no problem giving them poems.
Yeah, poem it up. Okay, thank you so much
Yes,
for your
ma'am.
time. I appreciate
I'm still here.
it. No, he's not.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.